All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're using Michael Crichton's fantastic thriller, Next, as a lens. Why? Because it helps us unpack some of the most mind-bending questions of our time. Questions about genetics that aren't just science fiction anymore. They're real, and they're happening right now.
So let me just start with this one big question. Can someone else own your genes? I know, it sounds like something out of a movie, but as we're about to see, this is a real ethical and legal battle that's being fought as we speak.
And this is exactly why we're looking at a novel. Crichton himself said that the craziest parts of Next, the stories that seem totally unbelievable, they're basically just slightly changed versions of real-life cases. That makes this book the perfect, if slightly terrifying, guide to the world we're living in.
Which brings us to our first big idea, this notion of a genetic Wild West. Crichton paints this picture of a world where the science is just exploding, moving at an incredible pace. But our laws, our ethics, our ability to understand it all, it's lagging way, way behind.
So what he does is he weaves together all these different stories, and they aren't just there to be thrilling, they're case studies. Each one shows how human life, right down to our DNA, is being bought, sold, patented, and fought over. He's really holding up a mirror to our modern world.
The first battleground he drops us into revolves around a question that sounds simple but is anything but. Who actually owns your body? We're talking about a real fight over our own cells, our own tissues.
Okay, so meet Frank Burnet. Imagine this, you're diagnosed with a deadly, rare cancer. You agreed to an experimental treatment and it works. It's a miracle, you survived. But for years, your doctor keeps having you come back for more and more tests. You think it's just good follow-up care. Then, you find out the shocking truth. Your cells were special. They fought off the cancer in a unique way. And your doctor? Well, he patented them and sold them to a big corporation, without your permission, without you even knowing. So now, Frank is in court, literally fighting to own a piece of himself.
And the imbalance here, it's just staggering. I mean, yes, Frank got his life back, and you absolutely cannot put a price on that. But the university and the corporation, they got a multi-billion with a $billion asset from his body, and he got nothing. It really makes you wonder, when you sign a consent form for a medical procedure, what are you actually giving away?
And just when you think it can't get any more bizarre, the university's lawyers pull this move. They essentially tell Frank, hey, even if you win this thing, even if the Supreme Court says your cells are your property, the government will just seize them under eminent domain. The same way they'd seize your land to build a highway. It's an absolutely shocking moment that shows the incredible lengths these institutions will go to keep control of these assets.
So, we've talked about owning what already exists, but Crichton doesn't stop there. He pushes us even further, into territory where genetic engineering starts to challenge what it even means to be alive.
The key technology here is something called transgenes. It sounds really complex, but the basic idea is you take a gene from one species, like a human, and you put it into the DNA of another species, like a chimpanzee, so the chimp starts expressing that human gene.
And that is how we meet Dave.
Dave is the result of a secret, off-the-books experiment. He's a human-chimp hybrid. But he isn't just an animal in a lab. He speaks in full sentences. He can read. And in one absolutely unforgettable, unsettling scene, he looks at the scientist who made him and asks, "Are you my mother?" This is Crichton at his best, pushing us way outside our ethical comfort zone.
Which forces us to ask the impossible question. What is Dave? Is he just property? Something that can be owned, experimented on, and maybe even destroyed? Or is he a person with rights? The scary part is that Crichton shows us our legal system has absolutely no answer. There's just a void.
And all of this, the fighting over cells, the creating of new beings, it points to another massive theme in the book, the corrupting influence of money. Crichton makes a powerful case that the race for profit is twisting the pursuit of knowledge and ultimately hurting us all. Now, get ready for a number that might just blow your mind. Crichton's research for the book revealed that roughly 20%, a fifth of the entire human genome, is already privately owned, patented. Think about that. A company can own the rights to a gene associated with Alzheimer's and charge other scientists royalties just to study it. A basic piece of nature has been turned into private property.
So how did this happen? Well, Crichton points his finger at a 1980 law called the Bayh-Dole Act. Now, the intention was good. It was meant to get discoveries from university labs out to the public faster. But Crichton argues the reality has been a nightmare.
It created a culture of secrecy, turned scientists into entrepreneurs, and created massive conflicts of interest that may have actually slowed down medical progress.
And here's Crichton himself, summing it all up. He saw this tangled web of money, law, and academic research and found it deeply disturbing. All that secrecy, all driven by the need to protect patents and profits, he believed it was completely against the public good.
So after laying out all these scenarios that feel a little too real, what was Crichton's final warning? Well, in the author's note at the end of the book, he actually steps out from behind the curtain and tells us exactly what he thinks. No fiction, just his direct conclusions.
And he lays out a pretty clear 4-point plan. 1. Stop patenting genes. Full stop. You can't own a truth of nature. 2. We need clear, unambiguous laws for how human tissues can be used. 3. Get rid of the Bayh-Dole Act and untangle university research from corporate interests. And 4. The government needs to provide scientific information that is independently verified and trustworthy, not influenced by business. For him, these were the essential steps to pull us back from the edge.
And this really is the question he leaves us with. The scenarios he wrote about are no longer just theory. Our genetic future isn't coming, it's here. We're living in it. And through all these stories, Crichton is really just asking one thing. Are we, as a society, actually ready for what's next?